Mike Reiss, welcome to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing great, and I appreciate you having me on. Hello, Alabama.
No doubt, no doubt. I mean, we're as passionate about football as you guys are there in Patriot Lands, and even though we struck out at the championship game, you guys were able to finish the deal, and we'll certainly talk about some of those Alabama guys. But you know why we're calling. Brian Daboll is a big name here in Tuscaloosa. The buzz is beginning to pick up. I'd love to get your thoughts.
Well, let's start with just his background. I mean, you obviously know he's got a history with Coach Saban going back to Michigan State, 1998-99, when Brian Daboll was a graduate assistant on Nick Saban's coaching staff at Michigan State. So these two know each other well. In fact, Brian Daboll ends up at the Patriots in large part because of the connection between Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. Of course, they go way back as well. So this guy knows all about what Nick Saban is all about. And, of course, Bill Belichick and his program has so many similarities to what Nick Saban's doing at Alabama. So you have that familiarity first and foremost. And I'll tell you, you talk to anyone that knows Brian Daboll, and they'll tell you this is a top-class individual, just a great guy first and foremost. And then you get to the football mind. I mean, he's overqualified as a tight ends coach. He could easily be an offensive coordinator in the NFL. He already was for the Cleveland Browns, Miami Dolphins, Kansas City Chiefs, but he comes back to New England. And because this coaching staff is so stacked with bright minds, he fills in as a position coach, but clearly has a much higher ceiling than that.
All right, so you want to go ahead and break the news? I know you guys got some plugs up there. We know that we feel that this will come from the NFL side because Saban camp is locked up. Okay, I mean we don't hear a whisper out of this side. Any nuggets flying around there in Boston?
Well, so here's a couple things to just know about Brian. I mean, he has 5 kids, so there's going to be family considerations here. And I know he won't take this lightly in terms of if he's going to make this move. It's impacting a lot more than just himself. It's the whole family consideration. And it's a big jump for him. He's been in the NFL since the year 2000. Does he want to go back on the college track? So I don't have any concrete news, but what I can tell you is that I think he's strongly considering the opportunity, but it wouldn't surprise me if this goes in either direction at this point.
When you look at some of the reports coming out of that area, it seems that they were grooming him at some point to take Josh McDaniels if Josh McDaniels goes on to another head coaching stop. Is there any validity to that?
Well, I would say this. I think that was a media-driven thought, and I had not heard that specifically from anyone internally, but he clearly is, the most experienced and qualified of their options in-house. That being said, in the past, you look at the way Bill Belichick has handled that position when there's been an opening in the past, and he has not been afraid to go outside the box, unconventional thinking. So I would say on that, that's what a lot of people in the media are saying, but until I hear that specifically from someone inside the organization, that would be more speculatory than anything concrete.
When you look at his philosophy, is that similar to what the Patriots run now?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, it's the philosophy for the Patriots offense, and this goes back. I mean, look at his history as a coach. I mean, Patriots from the year 2000 to 2006. Then he goes to the Jets 2007, 2008, and follows Eric Mangini there. And Eric Mangini was a former Patriots assistant, so the same type of offensive approach. And then he goes to Cleveland, offensive coordinator, again with Eric Mangini, Miami, Kansas City, and then back to New England. So the idea in terms of what he's been part of on offensive staffs is you're a game plan offense. You don't come in and say, this is what we do, try to stop us. You try to have the most complete offense, and you vary your approach on a week-to-week basis. So you might be spread out, attacking through the air, 1 week, and then you might be ground and pound and going with the power run game the next week. Now, I have to be honest with you. I'm all pro football up here in New England. I don't watch enough college football to know if that type of approach is even applicable, in the college game. I don't have that expertise to say that, but I know that's the type of system he'd be coming from over his, 2 decades here in the NFL.
Well, one of the former quarterbacks here that always told me, he used to tell me a lot, and he would say, Alabama's offense is really take what the defense will give you. That you don't
there
have.
You go.
And so I think when you said that, that's the first thing that went through my head. And we sort of got away from that a little bit. And I think that's where Alabama would love to be able to go back. I mean, there's not enough pro-style offensive coordinators around college football. The spread attack is just trying to take over college football. But Nick Saban, I think, is trying to go back. How about quarterback developer? What do we know about Brian Daboll?
Well, so, the first thing is part of the reason he first left the Patriots back in 2007 was the chance to work with quarterbacks. He'd been the team's wide receivers coach from the year 2002 to 2006. And when Eric Mangini, his close friend, left the Patriots to become Jets head coach, Daboll worked specifically with the quarterbacks there. So what I can tell you, he hasn't done much of that specifically in New England, but he helps coordinate the running game. So in his role as tight ends coach, so he works closely with the offensive line coach and the offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, specifically with the run game. He hasn't necessarily been in the quarterback's room here in New England, but I think if you talk to any player on the New England Patriots team, they would have only positive things to say about his ability to make them better players, whether that's at the tight end position, the wide receiver position. And if he had a crack at doing the quarterbacks, I have no doubt he would contribute in that area as well.
Mike Reiss, I don't know if you realize what you've just said in the last 35 or 40 seconds, but Alabama fans are going to absolutely love you because you said run game guy. Because we've got hashtags here in Tuscaloosa, run the darn ball. They'll use the other adjective. Okay. But when you said run the ball, I can promise you the ears poked up in Tuscaloosa that he's in that run game style. Man, that's
yep.
And really looking at Nick Saban, I think he would like to go back. I mean, just judging on what he's recruited. But one thing that I notice when I look at Bill Belichick or I look at Nick Saban, these guys are hard to work for. And if Brian Daboll's been able to prove it in two different stops, to me, he's cut out to the demands of a Nick Saban.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that because I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. They are hard to work for in the sense of they're as demanding as they come. And some people might look at it and say, wow, this is there's not a lot of laughs in here. It's a very hard driving environment. At the same time, you talk to the coaches and they'll tell you, I want to win. And when you win, it makes it all worth it. And both these head coaches, they do a lot of winning. And so I think in that sense, it's not too hard, to coach for them. But you're right in terms of sometimes Patriots will bring in a coach, that hasn't been part of this program. And it's a culture shock for those coaches. And sometimes they don't hang around because they're just not used to the level of demands, the culture there. But Brian Daboll, I mean, this is 2 decades where he started with Nick, in Michigan State in the late 90s. Nick knows him really well. He came highly recommended. And I'll tell you, if he makes this move, and it's still an if because we don't know how this is going to go, that Bill Belichick and Nick Saban are talking here, and it's all above board, and it's all going to be, hey, if you want this, if this is best for your family, we give you our blessing. And Nick, here's what, what you're getting. There's going to be no secrets. This is all going to be above board.
You think Bill Belichick would give him the blessing knowing how much they've invested in Daboll?
I have no doubt in my mind that he would. And here's what Bill Belichick would say. And I got to be careful here because, I don't know this for sure, but this is just on 17 years of covering Bill Belichick, where he says, look, if you're pursuing an opportunity that we can't provide you, that gives you a chance for career advancement and you want to pursue it, we're all for that. Now, there are a few exceptions. I mean, you don't want to see him go to the Jets or, a rival team in the AFC, but Bill Belichick counts Nick Saban as one of his closest friends in the industry. And I don't think Brian Daboll would have even interviewed there if Bill Belichick wasn't 100% behind the possibility if Brian Daboll decides he wants to go that route.
How big, and I know there's a big switch here, how big is a priority for the Patriots to sign Dante Hightower?
I love the switch. This is what we do, right? We audible off in football, and we go right to the next topic. Hightower, let me tell you, that second half he played in the Super Bowl, I can't talk about that enough. I think it was as impressive as I've seen him. He is, in my view, our top priority in free agency. The question will be, how do they go about doing it? Do they put the franchise tag on him, which would be quite a big number at about $15 million on a one-year term, or can they get a longer-term extension done? Dante Hightower's everything the Patriots wanted and more coming out of Alabama in 2012. And Bill Belichick said it the day after the Super Bowl. He's been everything Nick Saban said he would be in terms of the versatility and all the different things he can do on defense. It's just a matter of where you want to play him because he can do so many different things.
Do you think it's a huge priority for them to get him re-signed?
I think it's their number one. And
Okay.
they have a lot of business free agency-wise, but this is number one because of the player we're talking about. He's also a captain and a leader, a defensive communicator, and also the urgency of timing. I mean, he's going to be a free agent here in 3 weeks, and that's a big asset, and you don't want to lose that asset. So I'm just curious to see how they go about trying to do it and whether that franchise tag is in play, because if they don't put that tag on him, they lose a lot of leverage, and it's an open market situation, and all it takes is one team to come in with that offer you can't refuse, and then they'd lose him, and I know they don't want to do that.
I don't like to go negative, but I got to ask you about Cyrus Jones. Just had a rough transition from the college game to the NFL. Talk about Cyrus Jones here for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, it was disappointing because when the Patriots drafted Cyrus Jones, they talked about how they had a couple different players, rated at the same level as Cyrus, and the reason they went with him was because of the value he provided on fourth down as a returner. Of course, Alabama fans know it well, and it just didn't happen for him. And, it looked to me like he lost his confidence a little bit, and he was unsure of himself. And so he had ball security issues on fourth down, and he also had some judgment issues. What? Should I come up and catch this punt? Do I back off? It was as rough of a rookie season as I've seen for a top pick in Bill Belichick's 17 years here. But I would just say this. It's way, 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 way too early to count him out. A lot of people were saying some not so flattering things about Dante Hightower back in 2012. Now, it wasn't at the same level as Cyrus Jones, but I think we got to give him more time. He's going to hit the reset button, and next year is going to be big for him to try to turn this thing around.
Mike Reiss, you can connect with him, Reiss, ESPN Boston. Mike, I'm going to paint a little hypothetical. You can skip it if you'd like. But if Nick Saban decides, underline, I'm trying to say this multiple times so the audience hears us out, if he offers Brian Daboll the offensive coordinator job, in your best estimate, would he accept it?
Oh, man, I'm not going to pass on it because I don't like to pass on questions. I just... they got such a good thing going on up here in New England. They're winning Super Bowls. I just think it all comes down to family considerations. I would be guessing. I'd just be guessing. Man, I honestly think I think he's really wrestling with this. That's just my sense of it, and I'm not sure he knows the answer to it. But if I had to say, I'm going to say he's going to stay, and it's just I want to make it clear. It's just a guess that he's going to stay. Because of those family considerations. That's a big move, and it's also moving away from the NFL. Again, just a guess. I don't have any inside information. I think he's really wrestling with it, but that would be my guess.
Well, Mike, 41 years of age. He spent 17 years in the NFL. I mean, there's got to be a pension that he's got to be getting close to. I mean, the age of 41, he spent 17 years. If I added it up correct, he was in his 16th. He's going into year number 17. I think maybe I'm a little bit off there. That's a lot. That's a lot of years in the NFL. I mean, there's a lot of pension there, a lot of plans, and I'm not sure exactly if he plans to get back there at the age of 41, but that's something to consider. Sure, certainly.
It is, and I'm not aware of the specifics of that. I think, to me, the question is, and I try to put myself in his shoes in these type of situations, is say, okay, where do I want my career to go? Where do I envision myself ultimately going? And if he wants to be a head coach in the future, the move to Alabama might be a good move for him because it sort of moves him up to a play calling, situation and a winning program where you're going to be in big games and then, but you're probably looking at head coach in the college ranks from there. You're not probably moving back to the NFL. And so I think that's the question he probably needs to answer, one, on the family, like I mentioned, and two, do I want to make this shift mid-career to the college game, or am I happy being an NFL guy? And I think those are probably the two things he's wrestling with right now.